Good morning. Welcome to Westside Unitarian Universalist Church, where compassion leads us to work for justice and equality. I'm glad you came today, and it is my hope you will find something here that nourishes your heart, feeds your mind, and grows your spirit. My name is Debbie Rake, and I am your worship leader this morning. Be you a spiritual seeker, an atheist, or a theist, Westside is a community of many beliefs, genders, and sexualities, a community of diverse cultural, racial, and class backgrounds, a community of varied abilities and gifts. Some here find inspiration in the great books, others in the great outdoors, and others still in great conversations. Whoever you may be, all are welcome in our inclusive congregation. To newcomers and old friends alike, together we say, welcome. Good for you. At Westside, we are raising the next generation of Unitarian Universalists, and we want them to know that they are an important part of our community. Several years ago, we chose to be radically inclusive and to adopt a multi-generational worship, where our services include all family members, so welcome to all children and youth of all ages. There are a number of announcements included in your order of service. Please take any of them with you that you might need for reminders this week or to share with others. I'd like to call your attention to the list of upcoming services. Next Sunday, we will hear from our own Tanner Trask. His reflection is about Rahab, a UU reading. For those of you joining us online or visiting with us today, if you are not already on our mailing list, please sign up by clicking the link at the bottom of our homepage at the westsideu.org website. And for those of you here in person with us, please take a moment now to silence your devices. I did want to point out a couple of the inserts in your order of service. One is the welcoming congregation page. Westside has a long history of supporting the LGBTQ community, both here in Fort Worth and around the world. This page has some local groups you might want to know about. Oh, and don't forget to save the date on Friday, February 9th. It's our casino night. Today, Janna Canard will present a reflection written by the Reverend Amy Russell. Reverend Russell is an assistant minister at First UU of Richmond, Virginia. Before coming to First UU in 2021, she served UU Community Church in Glen Allen. She has been in ministry for 22 years at UU churches in Maryland, Ohio, and Virginia. She is partially retired and loves spending time with her grandchildren and writing fiction. Now, I invite you to take a deep breath and from wherever you are, settle into the sacred space that we create and let us worship together as we listen to this morning's prelude, We Shall Overcome, played by Yuki Kumamoto and Jonathan Sarmiento. I'm ready to march. Our opening words are from number 431 in the gray hymnal. They are by Barbara Wells. O spinner, weaver of our lives, your loom is love. May we who are gathered here be empowered by that love to weave new patterns of truth and justice into a web of life that is strong, beautiful, and everlasting. As do many Unitarian Universalist congregations, we begin our time together this morning with the lighting of a chalice. I invite Yuki Kumamoto to come forward and light our chalice this morning. The chalice is a symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. And represents the Unitarian Universalist Association, or UUA. The flaming chalice symbolizes the heritage of our past, the warmth of community, and the light of hope within this church today. The chalice lighting words today are, May This Light Guide Us, by Jakaran Olaoya. We light this chalice here in the darkness of winter as we wait. This temporary space is one filled with prayers to be answered, love to be given and received, miracles to be witnessed. May this light guide us until the light of the sun returns again. Our opening hymn is number 1014, Answering the Call of Love in the Teal Hymnal. Notice that the title is changed and the words in the chorus are changed to match it. It's Answering the Call. This change has been made with the approval of the author, and it's intended to make it more inclusive to folks who cannot stand. Please stand as you are able and join our song leader, Linda Ice.
Answering the call of love.
Please remain standing and join me in our affirmation. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to work for justice through action, to serve others in community, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with creation. Thus do we covenant with one another. You may be seated. Please come forward if you are young at heart or would like to have a close-up view of our Time for All Ages, presented by our outstanding Director of Lifespan Religious Education, Nikki Kennedy. Then we will sing the kids out with number 414 as we leave this friendly place in the gray hymnal.
Good morning, you guys. How are y'all? Are you awake? Did you notice what was going on outside this morning by chance? Was it hot or cold? Was it cold? Did you have to wear a jacket? You didn't have to wear a jacket? Did you wear a jacket? Yeah, you have on your jacket, Ellis?
I did.
You didn't?
Yeah, but I just did a long sleeve and then like a short sleeve on top.
Yeah, did your parents have to cover up the faucets maybe outside so they didn't freeze? They didn't cover, yeah, Mom says they did. Mom says they did. Did any of your parents maybe open up the cabinets where water is under a sink so they didn't freeze? Did any of you guys do that? The kids are all asking their parents. Yes, 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 I did. I know I did. I hope that when I get home, I still have running water, not frozen pipes, just like I hope all of you have running water and frozen pipes. But you know, some people, their pipes are probably going to freeze, right? Because it's really cold, really cold. But I want you guys to stay safe and well. But I want to talk to you today about water. So most of us here are able to go to our kitchen or our bathroom and turn on the faucet to wash our hands, to get some water. True? Thumbs up? Agree? Did you know there's some places, even in the United States of America, that don't have that? They don't have water. They have to go and gather it from a well. They may have to walk to a creek to gather their water. They have to sometimes really work for something that we're all lucky that you guys all have water in your house. And I want to tell you a story about somebody collecting their water. So sometimes when people live near a river and don't have a kitchen with running water or a bathroom with running water, they have to get a big pole that they hold over, and they have a pot on each side. And they walk down to the river and they collect the water, and then they walk back, and it's really heavy. Now, they build good muscle, but it takes a little bit of time, right? They have to be pretty thoughtful about how they use their water and how they don't use their water. So this guy had been collecting water for his family for years, for decades. And one of the pots was cracked. But here's the thing. Pots are really expensive and hard to replace. So even though it was cracked, he kept using it. And he was telling both pots, how thankful he was for them when he was collecting water because they were going to have a big family dinner. Well, one of the pots looked at him and said, you know, I'm a little ashamed of being a pot. And the water collector was like, why? You do a fantastic job. And he's like, yeah, but for the last 20 years, my pot has only come back to the house half full because I have a crack in it. I'm so ashamed that I'm not perfect and I'm not complete. And the water bearer said, oh, but my friend, I want you to carefully watch when we walk back to my house from collecting the water in the river. I want you to look at the difference in the two sides of the road. Which side has the flowers and which side only has dirt. So they walked down to the river, and the water bear collected the pots full of water, and he put them back on his shoulders, and he walked back to the house, and on their way, the pot saw the difference. The difference was that the side with a cracked pot had beautiful flowers all along the path. The only reason there were flowers growing was because the cracked pot was dripping water every day all along the path. So those seeds got watered and they grew into these beautiful flowers. And these beautiful flowers they got to cut and put as centerpieces on the table and give to people to say thank you. You want to sit with me? No? Okay. And they got to have these beautiful flowers. And the water bearer, the person that was collecting the water said, I don't want you to ever think of yourself as anything but perfect, just the way you are. And I want you guys to think, have any of you ever seen something or done something that wasn't perfect and you were disappointed in yourself maybe? Or maybe you thought, oh, I wish I could be better at something. I'm here to tell you that today you are loved just as you are. We are thankful for you and all that you bring. And I want to remind you that you, each one of you, young and young at heart, and maybe not as young at heart, you're all beautiful and loved just as you are. That love pulls us towards self-acceptance. That it's important to be in a community, that together we get to love each other and give high fives to show how much we love. And I want you guys to all know that you are enough just as you are. I hope you bundle up enough and you stay warm enough and you drink enough warm things to keep yourself safe and well and give high fives to all that you come across. And I hope you have a beautiful and warm week. Thanks for being here.
As we leave this friendly place, love gives light to every face. May the kindness which we learn light our hearts till we return. This friendly place, love gives light to every face. May the kindness which we learn light our hearts till we return.
Good morning. I'm Jane Hardwick, and I'm your pastoral care associate this morning. In our community here at Westside, we make time each week to share pieces of our lives with one another. We do this because each person in this community has value. Submit your joys and concerns to the team by completing one of these forms at the welcome desk, by emailing us at pastoralcare@westsideuu.org, or by contacting me, Jane Hardwick, or John Fisher, Debbie Rake, Carol Kappa, Barbara Crotty, or Brenda McKeon, who are the current members of the team. We share our concerns with one another today, knowing that sorrows come into each person's life, knowing that together we offer comfort. Today we have not had any concerns submitted. We also share our joys with one another, knowing too that joy comes into all of our lives, knowing that together our voices can rise in a chorus of celebration. And we do have quite a joy this morning. This is from Linda and Myra Nice. We will be celebrating our 30th wedding anniversary tomorrow. And they said it wouldn't last. What do they know? Love is love. Thank you. And our best to you and Myron. We make space each week for musical centering, knowing the life and experience of every person matters, and together our lights shine brighter. As we hold the joys and those concerns that may not have been expressed among us, both those spoken and unspoken, let us sing our centering song number 1009 in the Teal hymnal, When I Breathe In.
When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe in love.
Good morning. My name is Janna Canard, and I'm one of the meditation leaders here at Westside. Our meditation this morning will begin with an introduction before we move into a moment of silence. Our bell will sound to signal the start of your own meditation, prayer, or reflection, and it will sound again at the end. Our meditation today is Listening with the Heart by the Reverend Gary Kowalski. Maybe prayer doesn't mean talking to God at all. Maybe it means just listening, unplugging the TV, turning off the computer, quieting the mental chatter and distractions. Maybe it means listening to the birds and the insects, the wind and the leaves, the creaking and groaning of the trees, noticing who else is out there, not far away but nearby. Sitting so still we can hear our heartbeat, watch our breath, the gentle whoosh of air, the funny noises from our own insides, marveling at the body we take so much for granted. Maybe it means listening to our dreams, paying more attention to what we really want from life, and less attention to all the nagging, scolding voices from the past. Or maybe it's about listening to each other, not thinking ahead of how we can answer or rebut or parry our advice or admonish, but actually being present to each other. Perhaps if we just sit quietly, we'll overhear a piece whispering through the centuries that's missing from the clamor of the moment. Maybe prayer means listening to the silences between the words, noticing the negativity of space, the vast, undifferentiated, and nameless wonder that underlies it all. Maybe prayer doesn't mean talking to God at all, but listening with the heart to the angel choirs all around us. Those who have ears, let them hear. May we be good company to one another in our questions and our journey. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen.
Here at Westside, we practice our UU faith in a variety of ways. One of those ways is by giving 100% of gifts to our weekly collection, unless otherwise designated, to support organizations who carry out our transcendent values of compassion, justice, and equality. Westside's plate offering for January is the South Central Alliance of Churches. SCAC is a coalition of congregations in Fort Worth, including Westside, serving zip codes 76104, 76109, and 76110. Because Westside is a member church, we come to you twice each year to help fund the Alliance so that it may meet emergency needs by assisting people past a difficult situation with rent or utility support. SCAC has a budget of $4,000 a month to provide rent and utility support, but the need is great. Over the past year, Eviction Labs reports that Fort Worth filings for evictions are 134% of its pre-pandemic average. Catholic Charities is not at this time providing rental assistance. The city opens its community assistance program in late January with a more complicated process to apply for funding. While SCAC cannot stop an eviction, our goal and hope is that families do not reach that point. Please give generously as you are able, and thank you. Give online through the church's giving page or by using the Vanco mobile app. Select the Service Project Fund. You can also mail a check to the church, 901 Page, Fort Worth, Texas, 76110. Thank you for your offering. Now, Jennifer Brown created a video titled, "How Has Martin Luther King Changed the World?" that honors Reverend Dr. King, and we are happy to share it now.
Even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed.
excuse me, thank you for putting into practice the spiritual value of generosity. Our giving connects us to the wider web of our community. And thank you for also keeping your stewardship commitment current to keep our congregation's important work going. And now, it is my pleasure to introduce our reflection speaker, Janna Canard.
I'm back. I want to begin our reflection this morning with a poem by Marilyn Nelson, former poet laureate of Connecticut and professor emerita at the University of Connecticut. It's called Generous Listening. A conversation can be a contest or a game of catch with invisible balloons. They bounce between us, growing and shrinking, sometimes floating like cloud medicine balls, and sometimes bowling at us like round anvils. You toss a phrase and understanding blooms like an anemone of colored lights. My mind fireworks with unasked questions. Who is this miracle speaking to me? And who is this miracle listening? What amazingness are we creating? Out of gray matter, out of gray matter, a star spark of thought leaps between synapses into the air and pours through gray matter into my heart. How can I not listen generously? And our reflection today is called A Listening Heart, and it is by the Reverend Amy Russell. Thich Nhat Hanh reminds us, deep listening is the kind of listening that can help relieve the suffering of another person. You can call it compassionate listening. You listen with only one purpose, to help him or her or them to empty their heart. When you find a person who listens with an open heart, you have found a treasure. Being heard from a person who listens without judgment, without their own agenda, can be transformative. It feels like you're emptying your heart of all its petty worries and fears. You feel washed anew with compassion. A person who gave me this gift of deep listening was my grandmother. We call my grandmother Pet, and for most of my life, I only had a long-distance relationship to her. Growing up, my family would go visit my grandparents who lived in Ohio every summer at their farm. I have wonderful storybook kind of memories of helping my grandmother pick corn and beans from her garden while she listened to us tell stories about our lives. There was a kind of quiet peace that settled over me when I was working beside her. And she would encourage me to tell me about my best friend at school or what kind of books I was reading. But later, as an adult, I moved to Dayton, Ohio, and had an entirely different relationship with her, living just a few minutes away. As a young working mother, I didn't always have a lot of time to spend with her, but I made a habit of visiting her almost every Saturday morning. It felt so special to me to have her undivided attention, since growing up with lots of siblings meant that every visit with her in the past had to be shared. Now, as an adult, I had her all to myself. We developed a true friendship. She would tell me about her life and the difficulties she had had to overcome as a divorced working mother. I learned how she was as a person, not just as my grandmother. What I remember most about that time was how she listened to me as I shared my life. There was something special about our relationship. She listened without judgment. I shared some of the difficulties in my marriage at the time, and I felt as I shared that she cared about me deeply and didn't judge or offer advice. It was a unique and special time. I must say that it helped me overcome a difficult time that I might not have negotiated as well without her gift of deep listening. I remember one afternoon during that time, driving home from work, I experienced some chest pressure and pain. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I drove myself to the emergency room thinking I was having a heart attack. After an EKG and an examination by a doctor, I was told that I was probably experiencing a panic attack. I was asked whether I had a lot of stress in my life. I was so embarrassed that I had somehow not been able to see what my stress was doing to me. I immediately drove to see my grandmother and dissolved into tears when she came to the door. After explaining what had happened and how embarrassed I was, she gently told me that it was time that I started taking care of myself instead of just taking care of everyone else in my life. After listening to me for so long, she finally offered me her gentle advice. I knew that she was right because she had listened. I felt heard. Learning how to listen is learning how to love. What a wonderful idea that if we learned how to listen without an agenda, without preparing ourselves for our response back, without judgment, we could love better. How many times in our family do we really do this? Sit down and listen to our partner, to our children, or to a friend who might really need it? Adam McHugh in The Listening Life says, we need to learn how to listen because all the talking in the world will not make our relationships what we want them to be. And it will not make us into the sort of people we want to be. Our longings for intimacy will not be satisfied through one-way conversations and interactions that feel like competitions. We learn how to listen because we want to learn how to love. McHugh says that listening is a practice of focused attention. He says hearing is an act of the senses, but listening is an act of the will. We choose to listen, and we choose it because we want to intentionally deepen our relationships. If we listen with an intention to fix someone or judge what they are saying, that is a way of keeping our power in a relationship. But listening with an open heart and an open mind gives our power away. Good listening shifts any power dynamic on its head, McHugh says. If we are in a relationship where someone is feeling we hold all the cards, listening with an agenda is one way to shift the power, listening without an agenda is one way to shift the power dynamic. A good listener becomes someone we want on our side. That person can be trusted if they prove that their listening is not tied to a personal agenda. When our friend or partner listens deeply to what we're saying, when we see in their eyes not judgment but caring, our hearts become open. We relax and start to pour out what's in us. When the person reflects back what we've said, not in a stiff therapist-like way, but in a way like they truly want to understand what they heard, that makes us want to share even more. When we hear that the person understood our feelings, we feel validated. When their body language is attentive and open-stanced, we get that they are open to us. When they respond with caring, not judgment, we feel held and loved. This kind of listening is life-changing. It's also reflected in our principles, and UU principles. Remember this principle? Acceptance of one another and encouragement towards spiritual growth. When we learn how to listen to each other in our families, then we can learn how to listen to each other in our congregations. Our Soul Matters groups are all about that kind of deep listening. There is embedded in the format a time when each member gets to speak uninterrupted about their experience on the theme. It's a time when we just listen. We don't offer advice, we don't ask questions, we just listen. I think this is deeply healing for people. Many of you find this in some of our other small group discussions, in our book club, committee meetings, meditation groups. I hope you all find a place in our church where you feel listened to. And if you haven't found it yet, let me know. I'll help you find it. In this time of polarization across our country, it may be a time when we need to learn to listen to people with whom we disagree. Many of you have shared that you have relatives or friends who have very divergent political views. Most of us have learned not to discuss politics with them. But I wonder how many of us have asked people with these differing views to share their story about how they came to believe as they do. Benjamin Mathis says, when someone has a point of view we find difficult to understand, disagreeable, or even offensive, we must look to the set of circumstances that person has experienced that resulted in that point of view. Get their story, their biography, and you'll open up the real possibility of an understanding that transcends disagreement. He suggests we just ask, what's your story? I'd love to know how you came to this point of view. And then we listen. Perhaps in the listening, we'll understand more about how someone could come to such a different viewpoint. If we listen without trying to change their minds, they will feel more open to hearing our story, but only if they ask. I recently read a story about someone who totally changed her worldview when someone from the opposite political campaign reached out to her on Twitter. Morgan Phelps Roper, granddaughter of the man who founded the Westboro Baptist Church, grew up picketing liberal causes to prove to the world about God's hatred against gay people. She had been brought up in a loving religious family who educated her to be a part of the world, to be part of the world, even when she was told it was mostly evil. She had been taught that people who did not follow the Bible's teaching against homosexuality needed to be corrected, and that it was her family's job to do that correcting. The Westboro Baptist Church membership was almost entirely made up of her extended family. Her mother was their spokesperson. But in 2012, when Megan had taken on the role of Twitter social media communication, she started receiving some Twitter feed from some loving and compassionate people. Instead of telling her how deranged her viewpoints were, they asked her to explain her own point of view. Then they would gently point out inconsistencies in the teaching she had been led to believe. They were not condemning her. They were opening up conversations and listening to what she had to say. For the first time, she began to have doubts about her family's whole belief structure. She says it was the compassionate outreach coming from these Twitter followers who made her feel heard. She began to question everything she had been taught. She left the family with her younger sister a few months later. She's now written a book called Unfollow. I think of the people who reached out to hear and offered to hear her story, asking her what had led her to her beliefs. They changed her life by listening and compassionately hearing her story. Megan Phelps Roper urges us to learn to reach out to those we disagree with in good faith, trying to understand their experiences and motives. It might make a difference. In the Hebrew Testament, the Lord asked King Solomon what he wished for. Solomon, whom we know as a wise man, answered that he wished for what is usually translated as an understanding heart. But in Hebrew, it's literally translated as a listening heart. Learning how to listen is learning how to love. Learning how to have truly open and listening hearts to everyone around us. It might make a difference to a world that needs listening. May it be so, blessed be, and amen.
Please stand as you are able and join in the closing hymn, number 318, in the gray hymnal, "We Would Be One."
We would be one as now we join in singing our hymn of love to pledge ourselves on you to that high cause of greater understanding of who we are and what in us is true. We would be one in living for each other to show to all a new community. We would be one in building for tomorrow a nobler world than we have known today. We would be one in searching for that meaning which binds our hearts and points us on our way. As one we pledge ourselves to greater service with love and justice, strive to make us free.
Our closing words today are "Holy and Generous Love" by Elena Westbrook. Go in hope, for the arc of the universe is long, and we can bend it toward justice. Go in courage, for together we have the strength to confront injustice in our daily lives and the larger world. Go in love, because a holy and generous love is both the reason and the means by which we transform our lives. The chalice is now extinguished, but its light lives on in the minds and hearts and souls of each one of you. Carry that flame with you as you leave this place and share it with those you know, with those you love, and most especially with those you have yet to meet. And now, join me in the congregational closing. Go in peace, seeking justice. Go in peace, committed to equal rights and opportunities for all. Go in the peace that is created when together we build communities of true solidarity, deep compassion, and fierce, unrelenting love. Go in peace. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen.